and welcome to our next webinar, CustomerSure webinar. It's wonderful that you've taken time out of your day to join us. So this webinar will be talking about how to stop the leak and more specifically turning feedback into loyalty and that whole concept about mastering the art of customer retention. Just a bit of background, so the webinar will last around 45 minutes. But we do encourage any questions. So if people have any questions, please do put them in the chat and we'll leave some time at the end to answer those questions. So please do get involved. We've also got a couple of polls throughout the webinar, so we'd love your involvement there to hear what your thoughts are. Just to let you know as well, the webinar will be recorded and you will get the recording afterwards. So don't worry too much about having to write everything down on every slide. You'll get that recording after the webinar. Just to introduce myself, so my name is Darren Wake and I'm Head of Customer Success at CustomerSure. I've worked in customer experience for many, many years and love working with people like yourselves and our clients on how to make their voice of the customer programs a great success. Particular emphasis on closing the loop and making sure that customers feel their voices are heard and listened to. I'll just hand over to Guy.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, just a brief introduction to myself. I've been at CustomerSure the last 15 years, so doing a lot of work in customer experience. But as you can see, before that, I had one or two turns in the hot seat myself. British Airways might not today be seen as a paragon of virtue in terms of customer service, but at the time, if anybody's old enough to remember, the advertising campaign was the world's favorite airline, and at the time it was. So I was fortunate to get some experience of when they were getting it right. And then between there and here, I was at Sage, and I was again felt like a pretty hot seat running customer service, where I was not just responsible for delivering services to customers, but I was also responsible for our services revenue stream. So I don't claim to know all the answers, but I can claim to have walked in your footsteps just a little bit. And between you and me, hopefully we can combine our knowledge and experience and get some useful lessons. So that's my background anyway. Just a summary of what I plan to cover this afternoon. Understanding a problem is halfway to solving it, isn't it? So I want to make sure that we're clear what we mean by customer retention. For some companies, it can be quite hard to know whether they're a customer or not, which sounds a funny thing to say, doesn't it? But if you're on a contract, if you've got like a phone contract or something, you know there's an end date and you know whether you've kept the customer or not. In other types of organizations, a customer might buy from you and they might still be loyal to you, and next time they have a requirement, they'll buy from you again, but you don't know when that's going to be. It's not kind of on a heartbeat of transactions. So it can be harder. So I guess that's a long way of saying what I'm going to cover today, I hope, are some general principles that you can take away, but recognizing that every organization is different in some respects in how it deals with the customers and how it trades with them. So I hope you can take some of these lessons, whatever you do, and apply them usefully to what you do. So we're going to go through making sure we understand the retention opportunity, why it's a problem, how to solve it. Fundamentally, that's what we're here for. But specifically, how to use customer feedback to give you like a real-time alerts and signals from customers of when there is an issue, and then how to organize yourselves and how to gear up and how to solve it. So some strategies for organizing yourselves as well as for listening to customers and measuring their satisfaction. And the other thing I want to touch on is, I think, relevant for everybody. You know, we can do these things and we can have these great ideas about ways to improve customer experience, but unless our colleagues in the rest of the organization understand how it benefits them, then it can always we feel like we're playing second fiddle, or we can struggle to get budget. So what I want to do is spend a little bit of time linking how customer experience directly feeds into making a financial impact, financial positive benefit for the organization so that you get the attention of other people and the support for your projects and initiatives. A personal side, I mentioned that I've had some personal experience. I took over as head of customer service in one organization, and I inherited a project, and I kid you not, it was literally called The Hunt for the Missing £1 Million. What was going on is that times were good, our company was doing really well, and we had really healthy new sales every month. New customer acquisition was greater than our target for it. Life was good, not to put too fine a point on it. But the market got tougher and things were not so comfortable. What it revealed was that actually we had a customer leakage, customer attrition problem. And although we were still getting new customers in the front door, we were struggling really to keep pace. All they were doing was just replacing customers who we were losing through the back door. And because it was good times before, we hadn't paid much attention to this. So nobody knew, we knew they were leaving because we had the revenue gap, but we didn't know the reasons why they were going. So the good news was we had a tradition of annual satisfaction surveys. So there was some data that I had to go and look at. The bad news was that in that company, everybody was always busy. So there was an equally strong tradition that nobody ever read the results of the satisfaction surveys. And actually, as I deal with people day to day nowadays, this is still a very common thing. Sometimes companies will they'll perhaps do an annual survey, they get results in, because it's not thought through, because it's not connected to those financial outcomes. People really sometimes don't see the value in it or don't know what to do with it. And it's not kind of plugged into the way the business works. So not surprisingly, you don't get any benefits from it. So we had some data for me to look at. So I read it. I went through painstakingly 20,000 responses. And what I discovered, it was quite sad, really, because what I found was lots of cries for help. And numbers-wise, I worked out that of every 10 customers that we'd lost, we could have saved 6 of them. So all sorts of different reasons why customers had issues. Some of them were problems with the product. Some of them were complaints we sold directly. We also sold through resellers. Some of them were problems with resellers. Some of them were problems with billing and their accounts. Some of them were to do with customer service or getting the technical support they needed. An accumulation of issues had led all of the customers who'd left. They'd reached the point where they were hanging on by a thread. They'd given us every last chance, and they'd decided to go and vote with their feet. So it was too late to do anything about those lost customers. But what it was absolutely clear was that if we'd got the information in a timely way at the first sniff of a problem, and if we'd done something about it, then we could have saved those customers and we wouldn't have had the hole in the revenue that we were desperately trying to plug. So what we did about it was, informed by the results of those surveys, having learnt quite the chastening lesson that we'd been ignoring all these customers, poor people who just got frustrated and got to the end of their tether with us. And we worked out, instead of doing an annual survey, we just started getting feedback from customers more regularly. We did it along the way, part of business as usual, if you like. It became a natural part of doing business. And there were 2 benefits to that. One was that we got information in a timely way, so that the first sniff of a problem, we could jump on it and nip it in the bud. And the second thing was that the surveys that the customers got, instead of being a great annual mammoth thing where we tried to pump lots of data out of them, they could just be very lightweight and very appropriate to the dealings they had with us. And that meant that they were the customers felt they were relevant to them, so they had no problem filling them in. If they got something to say, well, why wouldn't you spend a few seconds if you had confidence also that we were going to read it and do something about it? And it absolutely solved the problem. It stopped it dead, basically. We stopped hemorrhaging customers. And I put that we exceeded target the next 3 years. You might be wondering about years 4 and 5 and 6. Well, it worked so well that was where CustomerSure started. I had the product idea. So we left, and 15 years ago we set up CustomerSure, and it's been a pleasure really to help other organizations to learn these lessons and to give them some software that's really useful in helping them solve this problem. So that was where I learned some of these lessons. But I guess the conclusion was that nobody really wanted the outcome that we had before we fixed it. We didn't want to lose those customers. They didn't want to leave. I mean, when you think about it, which of us wants to spend time researching new suppliers, going through all the hassle of switching, taking a risk in case the grass is not greener on the other side? You know, nobody wants that hassle. We'd rather stay with the supplier that we've chosen. We'd rather they fixed it and got things right so that we don't have to go through all that hassle of switching. So it really was a lose-lose, and we could have retained the revenue. And I guess the question in my mind is, why is this still so common? Why do we, as customers, we're all customers in one way or another, whether in our business roles or as consumers, why do we still find that companies are really not very good at making us want to stay with them sometimes? And if we're putting our business hats on in our jobs, what is it that we can do to fix the problems? Now we're just going to do a little poll. There's a poll in the sidebar there just to keep things fresh and to help me make sure I'm talking about things that are useful for you. So the first question I'd be interested in is, how well is your organization handling customer retention? How for you? Don't worry, this is anonymous. Nobody will see what you answer here. You can be frank. But just gives me a flavour of you know, whether there are lessons here that people want, which is where I can put the emphasis. So we'll just leave that running a second, and I'll carry on, come back to it in a minute. Fundamentally, the fix to this problem is really dead easy. This is great news. It's not hard when you understand the problem clearly and when you think it through. It can be quite scary. So, for example, I said a moment ago, we've got 20,000 responses. That sounds like a lot of work to go through those, doesn't it? But when you spread them across the year and when you distribute them up to the departments and the people who are responsible for them, because they hit different parts of the organization, it actually becomes a more manageable job. And actually, it's not extra work, because the things you're going to be doing anyway, everybody wants to improve. Everybody wants to be doing the things that make you better and make customers want to come to you in the first place, makes customers want to stay with you. We want to be doing those things. Well, if you get feedback from customers, you don't have to guess. You don't have to work hard to try and get the information from, you know, people on the front line, from account managers. It's coming to you naturally as a part of doing business. Your customers are sending you that information, so you can see where the causes of friction are, where the pain points are, and you can deal with them really quickly. So it's things you want to do anyway. It just makes it easy to find them and fix them. So actually, this is not a lot of extra work that you have to get up and do. It's just kind of working smarter with your existing day job. But as I say, as customers, we find this is still surprisingly rare, don't we? Okay, the poll results. Let's have a look at the scores. How can we have the results of the poll?
They're just there.
Yeah, I can see on the side.
I can see them. Sorry. Rookie error. They're in the sidebar there, so we can see the results there. So a mixture, really. Nobody is in the bottom category. Everybody spread as a bell curve there, isn't it? So most people somewhere in the middle. Okay, sounds like it's worth pressing on. Worth pressing on though. I think my observation about why some organization, and this is helpful to know this, because it's, again, understanding the problem is halfway to solving it. Some of the reasons why we do experience these problems is that some organizations, you deal with them and they're just laser focused on sales, aren't they? You know, solve the sales problem, keep new sales coming in. Doesn't matter if we lose a few customers, just keep your foot to the floor on the sales pedal, and we'll be okay. You know, if we get a dip in revenue, we just press harder on the sales pedal. You know, you think of organisations like Ryanair, it's sales, 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 and they pay lip service to customer service. But actually, it's not the first organisation that jumps into your mind when you talk about quality of service or making customers want to stay with them. You go with them because they're cheap, and you know them for that. So some companies, it's kind of culturally, they just don't really care. They're never going to do anything about it, never going to change. It's always going to be about the sales. Some companies have a go, but like my organisation those years ago, they haven't thought it through. So yeah, we'll get some feedback from customers, we'll maybe do an annual survey. But if you think about it, once you've done an annual survey, for the next 364 days, that data is getting progressively out of date. And if you wait a month to read it, or wait a month for the researchers to give you the results of the analysis, then even in that month, if somebody has had a real issue that they're dead frustrated, dead angry about, then they'll have gone by that time and you've lost the chance to keep them. So some companies are receptive, but they're just kind of clueless. I don't mean to be rude, but they just haven't thought through how to get the results. Some companies are doing more often than annual survey, but they'll be doing it badly. So if you're doing a survey and it takes 15 minutes to fill in, and there's lots of conditional logic in there, and you've got maybe a few good questions, like questions that customers asking about things that customers want you to be good at, but maybe marketing have shoehorned a few questions. Sorry to all the marketing people on here. Maybe marketing have shoehorned in the questions. They're interested in the brand, and they're saying, okay, well, if we were an animal, what animal would we be? Or if we're a vegetable, what 3 words do we remind you? You know, customers really don't care about that sort of thing. They want you to be good at the things that they've hired you for. They want you to do, well, those things really brilliantly. And if you do, then you've got a customer forever, really. But if your satisfaction survey is bloated and complicated and cumbersome, then, you know, why would I fill it in? You're giving me a problem. So moving on to causes of, we've understood that people do leave, and the different cultures of organizations and how geared up they are. But what is it? What are the things that we need to think about addressing? Well, the types of attrition are, the first one is unavoidable. This, of my experience earlier, the 4 out of 10 that couldn't have been saved, that would be this category. So there's no longer a requirement. So if you sell your car, you don't need car insurance anymore. That's a B2C example. A B2B example would be maybe the customer's gone out of business, or they've been acquired, and the acquiring company's got a different way of doing things, so they don't need what you provide. So there are unavoidable losses. There's just nothing you could do to stop it. You're going to lose those people anyway. But it's good to know who they are, because you need to know not to beat yourself up about it. Here's probably an edge case for most people. Most of us would probably want to keep all our customers because we want their revenue. But in some organizations, and I'm thinking particularly of professional services organizations, some of them, lawyers, accountants, other services organizations, some of them have an actual policy where they will sack the bottom 10% of their customers each year, because they're actually more costly to service than the revenue they get from them. You know, their problematic customers, might be their temperament isn't a good fit or whatever. So customers, we get to the point where actually we'd rather our competitors had the pleasure of dealing with them. Not very common, this one, but it is one. And you know, so some, as a part of your business strategy, you may choose to lose some companies, but most customers we actually want to save. And I've had a stab at writing down what I think are, you know, the common causes. There's probably others that I could have listed here. You might think of others, but it will be to do with reasons why they've hired you. What does the customer want from you? Well, the main thing they want is your product, whatever it is you sell, whether that's a a physical product or a service that they buy from you. That's the main thing they want, and they want the quality of that to be good enough for their needs, whatever level that is. Other thing, and if they're not happy with the quality of the product, maybe they'll try and tell you, maybe they'll try and give you feedback, but if you don't fix it and it's consistently falls short, then you're at risk of losing them to somebody else who's got a better quality of product. The second thing would be what you're like to do business with. So what's it like to deal with you? Are your business processes slick and seamless? Is it a dream? You know, is it a 2-second sign up? Your IT systems really great that you can do everything self-service on them, and it's all intuitive and fast and easy, and it doesn't break and it doesn't take forever. Or is it the opposite? You know, people can get frustrated if you're really hard to deal with, and that over time that can grind, particularly if they're used to dealing with other organizations, not necessarily competitors, but if they're used to dealing with Amazon in their private life and in their business life, your systems are much slower and harder to use, then they've got a bench. They're not comparing you with a competitor, they're comparing with what it could be like sometimes. So it might be something to do with how you to do with business. Yeah, it could be any of those other reasons: communication, what your people are like, how they treat customers. Do they, when you're dealing with somebody, is it like they really want you to stay, or do they talk down to you and patronize you and treat you like you're a nuisance? So all of these things, you know, customers have their own cultures, their ways of dealing with things, and companies do, and their customers form a view over time of whether it's the organization that they want to stick with or whether they've had enough and they're going to go somewhere else. Now, that bottom one, I think, is slightly different from the top ones. So let's draw attention to the difference there. This is going to help us, because what we'll see is there are only 2 types of feedback. Even though there's lots of different reasons that customers might become unhappy, there's actually only 2 things that you need to be able to fix. And that's good news, because it makes the problem smaller for us. So the first set there, most of the items there, they're to do with the service or the product that you deliver to customers, how you've designed your business, your systems, your commercial policies, your terms. It's what you're like to do business with. And customers might have suggestions on how they'd like to improve, but if they gave you some feedback and said, oh, your order process is really complicated, they don't expect that to be fixed by this afternoon. You know, they're realistic about it. So all you have to do is drop them a reply, say, that's a great idea. Do you know what? That would also save us time as well, doing it that different way. Do you know what? We're going to plan that in. It's going to be in the next financial year. We'll get some budget for it, and we're going to fix that. Happy days. You know, you've listened to the customer. They think you're great because they've listened to you and you agreed to do what they've said. You've said you're going to fix their problem. Happy days, they can move on to their next job and put it behind them, and they don't have the hassle of switching because you're going to solve the problem that they told you about. So these sorts of things are kind of slow to fix, but customers are realistic about that. And as long as you acknowledge the issue and treat them reasonably, then you've kept that customer in all likelihood. This one is different, and actually in any kind of feedback process, this is the one most people ignore. We'll talk more about this in a minute, but this one really is time critical. If I've rung you up 3 times and said, there's a problem with my invoice, and nobody gets back to me, and I've rung again and nobody gets back to me, and this repeatedly, I can't get a problem solved. Might be a simple problem. It might be a problem that you keep directing me to the website because you think all your answers on the website, but it's not. I've got a problem that you haven't solved any Q&As on your website. And if you make it hard for me to solve these problems, then this one has a very short time horizon. I'm going to get so angry that this can lead to, this can very quickly precipitate a customer going somewhere else. I've got this issue in our business with a couple of our suppliers. One of our payment providers is a very mediocre product, but every time I contact their support, it makes me want to leave and go somewhere else. I haven't yet because it's a lot of hassle to switch, but the kind of pressure is building against the dam, and one day I'll just say, blow it. It's not my top priority, but I'm so cross, I'm actually going to go. They're not receptive to feedback. I've tried telling them. So unless you gear up to quickly solve issues, then you can lose customers that way. Okay, going to do second poll now, just to keep it a bit interactive. The approach that I've described of trying to listen to customers and then trying to understand the two types of problem to fix, does that make sense so far? And how much support from your colleagues will you get to that? Fill those in and I'll carry on and come back to that in a second. So we've looked at the causes, the probable reasons for why customers might get frustrated and not want to stay with you anymore. Now let's look at how to spot them while there's still time to save them. Well, having a great way of finding out who's not happy is the first step. And there are various ways that you can find out who's not happy. You might have account managers who you think, well, they're talking to customers all the time. They'll be our kind of eyes and ears, and they'll tell us when a customer's not happy. And that's great. That might be fine for you. That might work really, really well. But if the problem is with the account manager, then your customers will smile politely and shake their hands, but they'll never in a million years tell them face to face, because it's an awkward conversation, isn't it? It's really hard to give that bad news to the person you're dealing with. So sometimes they will just vote with their feet, and when they're gone, it's too late. You're not going to get them back. You may or may not find out what the cause of the problem was. So actually, most commonly, setting up a customer feedback program or a voice of the customer program where you can find out throughout the stages of dealing with your customers. That's what most people find is the best and most reliable way of hearing from customers, and the easiest way for them to tell you what you need to do to keep their business. So make sure that you've got a feedback program that's fit for purpose. And by fit for purpose, I guess there's different definitions of that, isn't there? There's the feedback process you might design, and you might have a look around and see what other companies do and copy theirs. And I'm going to suggest that's the wrong thing to do. Don't even copy the big companies with lots of money that you think get it right, because most of them get it wrong as well. What I'm going to be suggesting is a different approach, which is better and which works much better and is much better at customer retention. What I'm going to suggest is you design your feedback process from your customer's point of view. So there's the Carlsberg, if Carlsberg designed a customer feedback process, what would it look like? This is the one where you want the customer experience of your feedback process to be just as brilliant as your customer experience of whatever your product or service is. Treat that as part of the things that you've got to improve. And here are my 3 golden rules, if you like, for making a customer feedback process that customers think is brilliant. The first one, ask for feedback at times when customers are most likely to have feedback that they want to give you. So typically, an annual survey is not the best time to do that. They might not have had any dealings with you for months. You might do some customer journey mapping. You might do it formally like that. Or you might just think about, okay, what are the key dealings our customers have with us? For example, when they come on board, if they raise a support query, if they have a billing problem, when they actually get delivery of the whatever it is you do, you will know the key touch points. Those are the times, those are the triggers where the customers haven't had an experience of you, and then they've got some material to give you feedback about. And if you ask it in a timely way at those points, those are the most informative points of asking, if you like. So ask at the right times, again, from the customer's point of view. Second golden rule, make it dead easy. Think about surveys you receive. How do you feel when you get an invitation to a survey that says, please fill in our short 10-minute survey. Who's got 10 minutes to spare that they wouldn't rather be, I don't know, playing with the kids or walking the dog or whatever it is you do to relax? 10 minutes is often and many times longer than the actual service that you've received. You know, who wants to spend 10 minutes when you placed an order with somebody if it took you 30 seconds to place an order? It's just ridiculous. So aim for 20 seconds. You can tell a company what you like or don't like about them in 20 seconds. So don't force them to spend longer than that, and pare it down just to the questions. Think about, what does the customer want you to be brilliant at? And those are the only questions you need to ask. Thirdly, and by far most important, is respond appropriately. Because if I fill in a satisfaction survey and it goes into a black hole and I never hear anything, even if I've given a cry for help and said, this terrible thing has happened, I've raised it with you, you haven't dealt with it, here's my last attempt to give you feedback, I desperately want you to save me because I want to stay. If you then do nothing, and if I don't get any response appropriately to that problem, then I'm gone. And this is a key cause of customer attrition. Perhaps a different way, a better way to look at that would be, if you think about on the left-hand side, this is a picture of the traditional way. Companies will do surveys, they'll perhaps, some of them even sample it. Well, if you sample your customer base, you're definitely not going to trap all the people who've got an issue. It's fine for market research, but not for measuring satisfaction. So the old way, you've got your customer on the left in the yellow giving you feedback, and that goes into some analysts, and it probably sits there, in all honesty, sits there for a while where they do some charts. It may get fed to other bits of organization in time. It may get into the board report or a PowerPoint, but actually the organization is not geared up by default for anything to happen as a result. A good illustration of this, if you go into a restaurant and you get your meal and you start eating, and then the waiter comes and says, how's your meal? And you say, well, actually it's a bit cold and a bit disappointed. And they fill in on the clipboard and they walk away. And as they're leaving, they say, turn over the shoulder and they say, thank you, your feedback's important to us. And you're sitting there and you've still got a plate of cold food in front of you. And then a minute later, you see them come away from another table and you catch their attention. You say, what about my cold food? And they go, well, we've got to finish the feedback and we've got to combine it with all the other customers. And if cold food is in one of the top 3 problems, then we'll fix it. And if it's not, then we won't. But if it's not priority for all the customers, then I'm sorry, we're not going to. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous. And yet, this is how most organizations treat the feedback from their customers. So the way that's better is the model on the right-hand side of the screen there, where, yes, you're going to collect feedback. Yes, you're going to do some analysis. Of course, that's important because you've got to work out what's really going on. And of course, you want to prioritize it so that you get the biggest bang for your buck. But don't forget that amongst all that feedback, there will be people who have hit a problem, possibly even within the last day. And you've got to, if you want to retain that customer, you've got to nip that problem in the bud, and you've got to act quickly. So as well as going to the analysts, your feedback needs to go to some people who are in a position to get in touch with that customer and fix the problem. Typically, that would be frontline people. It might be support, it might be customer service, whoever it is in your organization. It needs to go to some people and it needs to go to them quickly. You know, again, some people have a half-hearted attempt at this, and you see it at the bottom of the email. It says, oh, we see there's a problem. Somebody will be in touch with you within 5 days or 3 days or 48. And that's it's better than nothing, maybe. But for somebody who has just told you that they're really, really cross, it's actually hopeless. So what I want to encourage you to do is set a really audacious goal. Try and get back to them within an hour. Definitely get back to them within a day, but gear up to do it within an hour. And I tell you what, if you're geared up to do that, you've solved customer retention. Why would anybody go anywhere else? Why would I go to another company If they're brilliant and always trying to make things better by capturing customer feedback and doing the analysis and always making things better, and if something does go wrong, perish the thought, if something does occasionally go wrong, my goodness, it's easy for me to get in touch with them and they fix it dead quick. So that's where you want to get to. I know you've probably got a backlog of customer service inquiries. It's all fixable. I've done it. Now's not the time to talk about that because it's a whole other webinar. It can be done, but my goodness, you blow their socks off if you blitz your backlog and get used to responding quickly. So that really is the way to nailing customer retention, not by kind of hoodwinking customers to stay with you. The thing that underpins all that I'm saying today really is, how do you make them want to stay with you? So why is this approach better? Obviously, shorter surveys, timed right. That's the way to get high response rates, better quality data, and really responsive follow-up in the way that we've talked about. Make sure the data goes to the right people in the organization at the right time. I think it's true, isn't it? Everybody in a company affects customer experience one way or another, directly or indirectly. It's not just the frontline people. The commercial people, the legal team can have an effect by the policies and the wording that they use even. Everybody has an impact on customer experience one way or another. Therefore, everybody needs to see the customer feedback. It needs to get fed to them. Sometimes in real time, like your service recovery people, sometimes when it's been analyzed a bit later. So I guess my encouragement to you is, make the pursuit of loyalty be part of your business as usual processes by building in customer feedback and gearing up to respond to it, making sure that even before you ask for feedback, that you've designed the processes for how you're going to trap the suggestions for improvement and how you're going to be able to respond quickly enough to blow their socks off and keep them with your service recovery. Just a little bit about getting support for this type of initiative. We can be the poor relation sometimes when we're trying to start up a project like this, can't we? Or get funding for some software. Find ways of tying it to revenue. Actually, it's not hard. We tend to want to talk about Net Promoter Score and CSAT, but the rest of the business are their objectives, their targets. They're focused on lifetime value of customers, reducing customer acquisition costs, increasing margin. So don't talk about how wonderful it is that your Net Promoter Score is high. Talk about the fact that you're losing half as many customers as you were. Talk about the fact that you're getting double the number of customer referrals than you were last year. And you're doing that because you've paid attention to customer experience, and all these processes that you've put in place are delivering results through concrete business priority measures. So just a few suggestions there. We're heading up to time. I'll try and leave time for a couple of questions. I won't go through these now, but you can go through them afterwards. And it's just a summary. Make the economic case, define your processes before you start collecting feedback so that you're not on the back foot when it floods in, as it will do if you've designed the feedback process from the customer's point of view. Make sure everybody who needs feedback gets to see it in a timely way, and set appropriate targets. Again, another webinar, but do not set a target for Net Promoter Score or satisfaction. It's one of the worst things you can do. Set targets for things customers care about. How quickly do you respond? How satisfied are they with the quality of the product? Get those things right, set targets for them, and magically you will find you get high Net Promoter Scores, but you'll be getting them for the right reasons. A couple of quick views. This is our software. It's one example. You may not need software. You may use somebody else's, but this is how our software do it. You can see there on the left, we've got 4 touch point measured. This would be an example from a housing association example where they've got the repairs, the touch point, booking a repair, having it done, a checkup afterwards, and then routine maintenance. And you can see measuring satisfaction with those touch points And at the bottom graph there is the trend over time, where you can see with the planned maintenance, the turquoise one there, they started off poorly on the left, and then they realized through feedback that there were problems, they fixed them, and they're now consistently high. On the right-hand side, that's an example of asking questions that are important to customers, and being laser focused on what they want you to be brilliant at. All these would have drill downs. You could drill down to the underlying comments. So it just gives you a much easier way of harnessing that feedback to know exactly where, pinpoint where you need to make the improvements. And AI, of course, just makes everything much easier now. You can get a summary of the insights. You don't have to read through all the comments. We still encourage that because it makes it real, but if you've got a high volume coming in, then you can get AI insights, and you can get the issues, the customer issues, prioritized on the right-hand side there. Up against the clock, sorry guys. I'll do a quick Q&A if there's any burning ones. You can read when the summary when you get the video of the webinar. Darren, have we got any?
Yeah, just one question, Guy. Really about winning hearts and minds. So from someone in a CX team, thinking about how they can get people in the customer service teams engaged with this, particularly on the service recovery piece, because there may be a fear of, oh, you're just giving me more work to do. Any kind of thoughts or tips on getting colleagues in these other departments to believe and engage?
Thank you. Yeah, that it does. The fear of more work is a real, and honestly, we should do a webinar on that, because it is solvable, but it's several steps in the chain. Let me try and give you a few bullet points. The first step is you have to work out what pressures they're under and how you can help them. So don't give them an extra job to do. That just will make them feel even more disheartened. You know, if it sounds like all this is extra burden, you know, extra stick to beat me with, or extra stuff I have to do. So work out what are they measured against, and then try and engineer the feedback and the customer experience program to help them meet whatever their objectives are. So, for example, if their objective is volume of calls, or right, well, what you can do is identify root causes of problems so that you can solve the underlying issues, and that will reduce the volume of calls. It's not an overnight fix, but if you don't fix it, it never gets solved, and so the volume of calls always increases. The other tip I would give is everybody in an organization normally has a financial objective. If you can show how giving them this information or participating in your project will help them meet that goal, then suddenly, instead of giving them an extra job to do, you're giving it a tool that helps them do their job better. So a lot of it is about thinking about what the benefit is of what you've got and how it can help them, rather than telling them they've got to do some extra work. And it is doable, but as I say, it turns out we can have one-to-one. If anyone wants a phone call on this, happy to do so. Hopefully those give you a couple of pointers.
Yeah, great. And maybe just time for one more, Guy. Is there around any nuances or differences in B2B markets? So just someone made a point of low volume of customers but high value customers. Is that different in terms of how you play it versus traditional B2C?
Yeah, some of the principles are the same. The principles that are the same are to do with seeing things from the customer's point of view. You know, you do have to take the principles I've given and apply them through the customer lens. And that's actually hard. It's like when you get behind the wheel of a car. I turn into, you know, I get really frustrated sometimes. And when I'm a pedestrian, I'm flipped around. So in our jobs, we sometimes struggle to see things how our customers see them. But that's the challenge. Try and see things as your customers do. So in B2B, you've often got more than one contact, haven't you? You've got influencers, you've got users, you've got the person who signs off the invoice. So lots of different stakeholders that you need to manage, and sometimes different feedback forms for the different stakeholders and understanding the different customer journeys that those different stakeholders go through can be helpful. But always it's about seeing it through the customer's lens and working out what they want you to be brilliant at, and then whether it's your feedback process or your core product. But yes, with volumes, typically it is a higher value customers and fewer of them. But the making feedback easy for them and not awkward, so not necessarily by the account manager, those can be some useful tips.
No, great stuff. And maybe just squeeze a couple more have just come in ever so quickly. So would you recommend doing exit interviews with customers, Guy?
I really would, yeah. The reason why you want to do exit interviews is, even if that customer, even if you've lost them because they don't have a requirement, even if it's not avoidable, you want them to leave feeling with a good taste in their mouth, don't you? You want them to leave singing if ever they have a requirement again, I'm going to go back to them. Because your word of mouth, your reputation still lies with those people, not just with your current customers. So always send people off happy if you can. And if you can't, even if you can't turn around and they're still cross, at least you find out why they went. And that gives you useful information to help you fix stuff.
No,
so generally
really
speaking, I would, yeah.
Yeah. Great stuff. Have you got time for one more, Guy? Quickly, since we've got you.
It would just be me and put them on directly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just a quick one. So from your perspective, is there an industry benchmark or best practice for how long we can go without engagement before a customer is considered lost? So I guess, yeah.
You got to be really careful with benchmarks, and got a webinar, we'll add it to the list.
Yes.
I only do benchmarks about things, a separate issue, but I only do benchmarks about things that are important to customers. No, it's really hard. I mean, I think I alluded to this at the start. It can be really hard to know when a customer has left you, and it's kind of an unanswerable question in some ways. If you're in a business where you don't have the thing, people are on a yearly contract or a renewable cycle, sorry, no, there isn't. And it varies by industry, it varies by demographic, it varies by, sorry, short answer is no, there ain't one. All I would say is just get together a pool of people across the functions in your business and take a stab at your best guess. Obviously, you don't want to be pestering people with feedback surveys, but actually, if customers don't hate satisfaction surveys. There, I've said it. They don't. They hate bad surveys. So if you've got, call it a feedback form, make it 2 questions. Just say, we want to be in touch with you. Might you still be in the market for us? There's ways you can engage with them. Think about what would be an acceptable way from their point of view to engage with them. And then you don't have to guess. Just ask them.
Yeah, no, wise words and well said. Great. No, that's been wonderful, Guy. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for anybody who's still here. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope some of that has been useful. We're here. We've got some contact details up for you. Give us a ping. We'd love to have this chat. We give our expertise away. We don't know everything, but as I say, we put our heads together with you who does know everything about your business and your customers. We've done this hundreds of times, and we'll come up with a good answer between us. So don't be shy. We don't do the hard sell.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And look out for the recording later today. And also, you may not be surprised to hear we love feedback ourselves. So you'll get asked, you sent a short survey later to give us your feedback. And we'd also love you to tell us what are the future topics you'd like us to cover in the webinar series. So anything else that you'd like to be hear about, let us know, and we'll add it onto next year's webinar program. Thanks very much. Thanks, Guy. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.